Good afternoon, all of you. Actually, first batch is in the morning, same class. Okay, so hello all online students also. Now, my name is Sushant, and we'll be discussing the introductory class. Before I begin, how many of you have the background in political science? Raise your hands. Okay, how many engineers and science graduates? Okay, online students, many of you have switched off your cameras. So this request to you, please switch it on. Okay. Now, since this is the very first class, I would start with discussion of the syllabus first of all. Okay. And since some of you are GS students also, as I've been telling in the class itself, that you should be thorough with two things. First is syllabus, and second with previous year's questions. And the material which you have got, the very first page is syllabus. I expect all of you to bring your individual syllabus as well as question bank every day for the class. That is useful, and I will be referring to that syllabus as well as question bank time and again. Okay. So political science and international relations, PSIR. Okay. This consists of paper 1 as well as paper 2. I teach paper 1, Iqbal sir will be taking paper 2. Okay. Paper 1, as you can see on the first and the second page of your syllabus. Okay. Paper 1 consists of section A as well as section B. Section A as well as section B. And you can see section A consists of political theory, while section B consists of Indian government and politics. Paper 2, accordingly, like every other optional of UPSC, it also consists of section A and section B. Section A consists of the comparative government and politics and international politics, while section B is India's foreign policy. Okay. Iqbal sir will be discussing more about paper 2. He'll come after some time. He'll be meeting all of you today also. I'll be focusing on paper 1 mainly. And just to remind all of you that this section B, that is IGP of paper 1 and section B of paper 2, Indian foreign policy, you might be familiar with it because it overlaps with GS also. But there's a difference between emphasis as well as a level to which you are required to understand. Okay. Optional requirement for Indian government and politics. Many of you know that's what most students commit the mistake, that it's regarding polity. It's not regarding polity. Please. It's not regarding polity. It is more than polity. Okay. And what distinguishes your section B understanding of both the papers, paper 1, paper 2, that you have to develop the understanding as per the requirement of optional. Now, what is the requirement of optional? That you have to link it with theories which will be taught to you in section A, both the papers. You will have to also link it with analysis of the scholars. These two main things is what differentiate you from your GS syllabus. And if you write GS answers in your optional, you will be getting below average marks. You have to understand these 2 points. Okay. So I'll be focusing myself on paper 1, section A, and section B, while Iqbal sir will discuss about paper 2. Now, this paper 1, as I say, it consists of section A and section B. Section B, as I said, is Indian government and politics, IGP. It stands for Indian government and politics. And section A, now here I would divide it into the Western political thought. Western political thought we have to discuss. We have to also take into account the Indian political thought as well as the ideas ideas, if I say properly, ideologies and concepts. Ideologies and concepts. That's what we'll be discussing here. If I had to divide it into three main sections: Western political thought, Indian political thought, and ideologies and concepts. Please refer to your syllabus. Now, paper 1, section A, as you can see, topic number 10. What is it mentioned? Western political thought. Okay, and topic number 9, Indian political thought. Topic number 8, political ideologies. And from topic 1 to 7, okay, that is ideologies and concepts. Now, if I refer to the syllabus, okay, that's for your reference. If you see, now this is political theory, and you can see topic number 10, it starts with Western political thought, where we have to discuss various thinkers in Western political thought, starting from ancient to modern times. Okay, now here, this paper, since all of you have opted for this paper has great convergence with GH syllabus also. And in your ethics classes, you will be discussing about these thinkers. Okay, now Western political thought, I'll be starting with day after tomorrow, I'll be starting with Plato, Aristotle, and others. I will first be discussing topic number 10, topic number 9, topic number 8, and these constitute the base of your optional. If you are thorough with these three topics, I'm saying 8, 9, and 10, understanding rest of this section A becomes very easy. When I'm saying thorough, means you need to have a command over these topics, 8, 9, and 10. So I will starting in reverse way, where I'll first be discussing 10, 9, 8, and then we'll take up the rest of the topics. And keep in mind, time and again, I'm emphasizing that these constitute the base. Because whatever topics we will be discussing from 1 to 7, you will find again, this is the application of what we have discussed so far. And the stronger is the base, the superstructure will also become stronger. You must have seen, many of you might have visited Taj Mahal also. Okay, what is the base of Taj Mahal? It consists of woods also. And Taj Mahal, the base of Taj Mahal, the woods needs to be, Taj Mahal is situated on the floodplain of Yamuna. So whenever there is a flood in Yamuna, that is good for Taj Mahal, it is said. So Taj Mahal has stood for more than 300 years. The reason its base is very strong. And that is what you are expected to do also. If your base is strong, the rest of the understanding, rest of the concepts become pretty easier. Now you will, those who are having background, they may appreciate. Those who are not having background, they will appreciate later on. So please keep in mind that 8, 9, and 10 are base of the syllabus. Now, Western political thought, where I'll be discussing ideas like Plato, Aristotle. Okay. Now, Plato and Aristotle, they are from ancient Greece, while Machiavelli and Gramsci, they are from Italy. Just understand, we'll be discussing in detail for your understanding, I'm telling you. And Hobbes, Locke, J.S. Mill, they are from England, while Marx and Hannah Arendt, they are from Germany. Okay, so we have to discuss the ideas of these thinkers, and your syllabus talks about these thinkers. It is ancient Greece as well as modern period. So syllabus talks about only thinkers of the ancient period as well as modern period, both in topic number 10 as well as topic number 9. Okay, if you see Indian political thought, this Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, and Buddhist traditions, they are part of the ancient India, while starting with Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Sri Aurobindo, Gandhi, Ambedkar, and M.N. Roy, they are part of the modern India. Okay, so this is political thought we are going to discuss. Now, one question which comes to our mind first of all is I use the word political thought. Okay. So one question which comes to our mind, that first of all, what is meant by political? If I say, what is meant by the term political? If I ask you, yes, can anybody reply what is meant by political? Your common understanding, without going into any details. What is meant by political? No. Yes. Having to do with power and its arrangement. Okay. Having to do with power and its arrangement. Fine. Yes. What are you saying? It is
part of distribution of power and ruling the state at different distribution of power of the state at different levels.
art of ruling. Art of ruling the state. Okay. If any layman asks you what is meant by the term political, yes, Shash is saying it is official. Okay, what else? It is relating to, Ritik is saying it is relating to public affair. Okay, relating to public affair. And nowadays, since all of you are kids of social media age, you know, when you see the profile of any person on Twitter, that person talks about, in the brief profile, the person says, I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm a social service, I'm engaged in social service, or I'm a politician, engaged in political activity. They will be updating there. And once you become bureaucrat, you will be updating it that I'm a civil servant. They give their profile in social medias. It is whether Facebook profile, if you see the Twitter profile or Instagram profile, that's what they will be mentioning. Now, the term political, which all of you have said, that is very true. It includes everything. But in basic, you know, the term political comes from the word polis. The term political comes from the word politics, and the term politics comes from the word polis. Okay. And this term polis, it denoted ancient Greek city-state. Ancient Greek city-states. Now, I'm using the word city-states. Ancient Greek city-states. Okay. City-states that we'll be discussing in detail also. City-states were basically small units of governance. These states were independent of each other, having very less population. You can say maximum 10,000, 15,000 population. It was a close-knit society. So politics is derived from the word polis, which meant ancient Greek city-state. And since ancient period, the politics came to be associated with what concerns the state. What concerns the state. In fact, some of you also pointed out that it is art of ruling the state. But politics is derived from the Greek word polis, which meant ancient Greek city-state. And since beginning, politics came to be associated with what concerns the state. Okay. Now, then question arises that what is state? If I'm saying what concerns the state, what is state first of all? Now, state is a concept in political science. You need to understand two basic concepts before I proceed. What is meant by politics? First is state, and second is by the term civil society. These two terms you need to understand as a student of political science. Please refer to your syllabus. Paper 1, section A. What is the second topic? Theories of state. And which are theories of state are given? It is liberal, neoliberal, Marxist, feminist, post-colonial. Okay. So state as a full-fledged topic we have to discuss. Now state, the concept of state is different from what the notion of an ordinary student is or a citizen is. For example, if I ask you, which state do you belong to? Uttar Pradesh. Now, she says that she belongs from the state of Uttar Pradesh. You? Rajasthan. Okay. Yes, you? Yes, I'm asking you. Rajasthan. You, Rich? Haryana. Okay. Now, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and Haryana. These, what we say, I'm belong from state of UP, state of Tamil Nadu, state of Madhya Pradesh, fine. These are state, or we can also call as provinces. Yes or no? Yes. You know, there's a difference. You are appearing for UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. At all these states, there is also Public Service Commission, SPSC, State Public Service Commission, Haryana Public Service Commission, Rajasthan Public Service Commission, that will be there. These are state PCS, State Public Service Commission. So here the term state, it denotes provinces. But the term which we are discussing, state, is a concept in political science. In fact, it is said that state is one of the central concepts of political science, and the term state, it's a broader term. State, it is that political association. State is considered as a political association which has the monopoly of use of physical force in a given territory. And this definition was given by a famous sociologist, which we'll be discussing, Max Weber. If anybody asks you, tell me what is a state, you will not be saying the state of UP, Haryana. These are the meaning of provinces. If anybody asks you, what do you mean by the state, tell me. The best definition is quote Max Weber. What does Max Weber say? State is that human community or political association which has monopoly of use of physical force in a given territory. Now, listen to the words here. I'm saying it's an association. What is association? All of you are graduates. If I assume, you may have alumni association of your schools, of your colleges. What is association? An organization or a bonding of more than two people. That's an association. So it's an association that where like a community, we can say, where more than two people are involved, having monopoly. What is meaning of monopoly? Only it can use. Like there may be a monopoly of a company. There may be monopoly of any particular country also in a particular sphere. So monopoly means only that, domination, you can say. It can use. So monopoly of physical force in a given territory means state is that institution which, if it uses the force, that is considered as legitimate. And this is monopoly of legitimate use. Please add the word legitimate. So it's a political association having monopoly of legitimate use of physical force in a given territory. And legitimate means rightfulness, rightful use, you can say. So state is that association which, if it uses a force, the use of that force is considered as right. If any other individual or any other organization uses the force, it is considered as wrong. For example, what is going on in Gaza? You know, what happened? Hamas terrorists, they came into Israel, they killed the Israeli civilians, they also kidnapped them. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Okay, so Hamas used a force that was considered as illegitimate. But when Israel used a force to defend its civilians, it is considered as legitimate force because it was used by the state of Israel. That is legitimate. You are moving in a street, policeman tells you, you please walk on the pavement. Don't walk on the road because you will be hit by the traffic. Please walk on the pavement. When you come from metro to Wajiram, okay, policeman tells you, you will say, okay, since traffic policeman is there, he will guide me. It's his right to guide me, that please walk on the pavement. If somebody else comes before you and tells you, please walk on the pavement, you will say, who are you? How dare you obey me? Want is that? No. So legitimacy is basically rightful use of the force. The state is that political association which has monopoly of the use of physical force in a given territory, and state is generally consists of 4 elements. State has 4 elements, if I say. The first element is population. The second is territory. Third is government. And fourth is sovereignty. That is, state is generally considered as a core concept of political science. So state has 4 elements, it is said: population, territory, government, and sovereignty. This government is said to be the concrete form of the state. If state is an abstract concept, government is the concrete form of the state. It is the government which exercises all the powers of the state. And these powers are exercised over a population within a territory. And this government, sovereignty means free to take any decision with respect to internal or external matters. Okay. India criticized Hamas. India supported Israel. India also supported right of the Palestinians. So it means sovereignty means the supreme power to take decisions in internal as well as external matters. So Indian government is sovereign. Indian government is free to decide. If I say sovereignty, it simply means the right to take decisions. It's a right to take decisions. And this decisions is with respect to internal as well as with respect to external matters. Indian government abrogated the status of Jammu and Kashmir, made Jammu Kashmir from a state to a union territory. That is our freedom to do so, because J&K is internal matter of India. India has not condemned Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. India has supported Israel in this trying circumstances for Israel. That is India's decision to do that. That is sovereignty. So this state has 4 elements: population, territory, government, and sovereignty. If anybody asks you, have you seen Indian state? You also know state is an abstract concept. The main powers of the state are exercised by the government. It is government, all of you will be part of the government. So whatever action you are taking as a district magistrate, whatever action you are taking as a SP, that will be considered as a part of the action of the Indian state. Okay. So state is an abstract concept. It is different from what we say in province. State is simply, you can see, that association which uses force, and that is considered as correct. And state is having 4 elements. And if you talk about the state of Israel, state of US, state of Russia, state of, if I say state of Brazil, all these include 4 elements. So state is a political unit, we can say, and the concept of modern state, it came into existence in 1648. There was a treaty called as Treaty of Westphalia. In 1648, the Treaty of Westphalia, where the concept of state was recognized. That state, you will study in international relations, state is a major actor in the international sphere. The notion of state came into existence in 1648 by the Treaty of Westphalia. Okay. And state, normally we consider it deals with the government. So some of you define politics as art of ruling the state. It means art of ruling the government. Government is a concrete form of the state, while state is the abstract concept. Okay. Now, coming to what is civil society, you have to understand. Now, civil society is the term which you will finding in newspapers also. It is said, the stronger is the civil society, the stronger is the civil society, the stronger is the democracy in a country. What is civil society? Civil society is, if I give you example, family, If I say business groups, family business groups, clubs, media, etc., they are all part of the civil society, it is called. What is then civil society? How you define civil society? How you understand civil society? Now, civil society is distinct from the state. If I say, if you consider that state deals with the government, basically, for example, police, for example, army, for example, court, prison, etc. All these are part of the state. Okay. Civil society is said to be intermediate association which mediate the relationship between individual and the state. It's autonomous, it is not in control of the state. Civil society is that part of the society, if I say, it is a set of, I will say, intermediate institutions, intermediate and autonomous institutions which govern the relationship between individual and the state. So they are not on control of the state, not under control of the state. In fact, we find that civil society includes family, business, clubs, media, and civil society is basically the institutions formed by individuals. It is financed by individuals, and civil society is institutions formed by individuals, financed by individuals to satisfy their interest, whereas state, these are all financed by public money, and the purpose is to serve collective interest, and this is what differentiates state from civil society. So here you have to understand that collective interest and individual interest, these are financed by public money and these are financed by individuals. I've used the word autonomous. This autonomous means free from control of state. So this is the difference between state and civil society. So civil society is basically, I'm saying, the set of intermediate institutions which govern the relationship between individual and the state. These are independent of the state, autonomous of the state. Whilst all the institutions of the state, police, army, courts, prison, they are financed by public money, they serve the collective interest. Whereas whatever these groups we have formed, these are formed by individuals, financed by individuals, and to serve the interest of the individuals. State has nothing to do with that. And the stronger is the civil society, it is said, the stronger is the democracy. So you have to understand the difference between state and civil society. State may make certain regulations to control the civil society, but civil society institutions are independent of the state. Media, for example. Media is called as the fourth pillar of democracy, and media makes the government accountable to the people. Media is independent of the control of the government. So before I proceed, you have to understand the difference between what is state and what is civil society. If this is not clear, please ask before we proceed. So recapitulating what we discussed, I say the word political comes from the word politics, and politics is derived from the Greek word polis. Polis means ancient Greek city, states. And since beginning, politics came to be associated with what concerns the state. Broadly, what concerns the government. Legislature, executive, cabinet, all these are part of the government. Okay. So since beginning, politics came to be associated with what concerns the state. And you have to understand the difference between state as well as civil society. State is not what we understand by province. State is simply that association which consists of four elements. territory, population, government, and sovereignty. Sovereignty means supreme power to take decisions. If I say the Indian government is sovereign, it means Indian government is free to take the decisions about internal and external matters. So whatever Indian government takes with respect to Jammu and Kashmir, whatever we take decision with our external friends, we say Russia is also a friend, US is also a friend. That is for us to decide. We are free to take our decisions. Government is the concrete form of the abstract concept called state. All the powers of the state are exercised in reality by the government. Okay. And the notion of state came into existence in political science by the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648. So currently we talk about nation state. Every state is organized on the basis of nation. Okay. So the state of Israel, Palestine is still not a state. It is demanding state. Palestine cannot be called a state because Palestine is not sovereign. Israel is a state because Israel is sovereign. Who controls Palestine's affairs? Israel, largely. So Palestine is not a state in that sense. Sovereignty is a very important part of the state. India was not a state before 1947 because who controlled us? British. We did not have sovereignty. Okay. So state is, as I say, deals with largely government, police, army, courts, prisons, etc. In fact, you can see legislature also, the parliament, these are all part of the state. So state deals with those institutions which are financed and formed by the people. It is financed by public money and the purpose is to serve the collective interest. Civil society, on the other hand, which will include family. Who forms family? Us. All of us are part of the family. What is the purpose of family? What is the purpose of a family, if I ask you? Does it serve your interest? Yes. Family, your parents have provided you nurturing. Your parents have sent you here to study. Your parents provide you emotional support. Your parents also are a pillar of support. Some of you may be very friends with your father and mother, depends. So family has been formed by us. The purpose is to serve our interest. And family is not in control of state. Business groups, like any group. Some of you may be from business family also. So if a family engages in, suppose, jewelry business, if a family engages in agri-business, that is what you have formed to serve your interest. In fact, this coaching industry is also a business. I say this coaching industry is also a business. And clubs, media, clubs, you may be setting a library also. Since many of you are offline students, you will see you go to a library. Who has formed the library? A particular individual. Why they formed the library? To help students study better. And this is financed by individual as well as formed by individual. So civil society is an intermediate. What is the meaning of intermediate? Intermediate is between two, individual as well as, if I say, intermediate terms means if on one hand we have a state, on one hand we have individual. And civil society consists of intermediate institutions. Civil society consists of intermediate institutions, and this civil society, intermediate institutions, they mediate the relationship between individual as well as society. Intermediate in that sense. They are between the state as well as individual or family. That's why they are called as intermediate institutions. And I also use the word autonomous. Autonomous means independent of the control of state. The two words, intermediate and autonomous. And what is their purpose? They help us mediate the relationship between state as well as the individual. That is civil society. The stronger a civil society, the stronger is the democracy. Now, how many of you have ever participated in any candlelight protest or any political issue? You have carried a march, for example. Have you ever been a part of NSS? What is NSS? National Service Scheme. Have you ever been part of NSS? Or have you ever been part of the student union? Yes, some of you might be DU students also. Or have you ever been part of student union? Participated in any march? Participated in, or have you ever participated in an environmental awareness campaign as students? Environmental awareness campaign as students. When I was a student, and that time we had a grouping called Taru Mitra. That was an NGO. So we were collecting, we were handling a sampling to every motorist. Now this giving of sapling is to increase their environment awareness. We were not a part of the state, we were part of civil society. Media. What is the purpose of media? Media gives the information to the public, and media also makes the state accountable. If I say, you must be aware about the very unfortunate incident which happened in Manipur. How 2 women were, they were brutalized, and the video was also shot. And when this was made viral, it shocked the conscience of the nation. That how this ethnic conflict between 2 communities, and in every conflict you will find women have to bear the brunt. In Hamas conflict also, Hamas-Israel conflict, how women were kidnapped by the Hamas. So point is that media, by showcasing these visuals, is media of Israel held the state of Israel accountable for their gross intelligence failure? Why Hamas was able to carry out such a planning, sending 5,000 rockets, sending more than 2,000 armed men? It could not have come without massive planning. And Israel security agencies were completely unaware. So did Israeli media enforce accountability of the Israeli state? Yes. So media is the same thing. Now, Souvik is asking, sir, this state and Article 12 of Indian Constitution. If you have done your polity, Article 12 of Indian Constitution also talks about the state. I will say, Shobit, Article 12 of Indian Constitution is subsumed under this state, because it is defined by Indian Constitution. It does not include judiciary. Does Article 12 of Indian Constitution include judiciary? No. In this state, the term judiciary will be included. Have I used the term court here in the state? So for your concept, Souvik, whatever is defined under Article 12 of Indian Constitution, they are under the subsumed under the broader term called state. You will be joining bureaucracy, you will be part of Indian state, because you will be part of the executive has 2 types, elected executive and permanent executive. You will be permanent executive. If army or police carries out illegal encounter, it is considered as act of the Indian state. So you will be part of the Indian government, and whatever action you are taking will be deemed as a part of the Indian state. Because who exercises the power of the state? It is the government, and you will be part of the government. Governments may rise and fall, state is still there. So today we have a government of Prime Minister Modi. Tomorrow we may have government of some other party. So governments may rise and fall, state will always be there. And what is the most important element of state? Sovereignty, right to make decisions. Okay, so this is the difference you need to understand between state as well as civil society. So I use the word intermediate institutions autonomous. Now I think Prajul is asking, what do you mean by free from control of the state? Now, free from control of the state in the sense that state may make certain regulations for their proper functioning, but state will not be deciding their day-to-day affairs. They are autonomous. Does the state decide which cloth you should wear? Does the state decides whom we should make friends or not? No, that is not a part of the state. So intermediate institutions which are autonomous, and you have to understand individual and family. So this is the difference between state as well as civil society. And coming to our definition again, it talks about the word politics is derived from the Greek word polis, and polis means ancient Greek city states. One of the prominent ancient Greek city state was Athens, that we are going to discuss. And what concerns the state. So since beginning, the study of politics came to be associated with studying the state. Is it clear so far? If it is clear, then only I will proceed. Yes. Any questions so far? Anything you have not understood, please feel free to ask. Yes. Tell your name also, offline students. Okay.
We discussed that the four elements of state, the most important one is sovereignty. If sovereignty is given with a restriction, for example, Sikkim had this restricted sovereignty of it would not be allowed before it became part of India. It would not be allowed the full, the foreign policies of Sikkim will be taken by India. So would that still be counted as?
Now, okay. Priyanshu is asking a question that before merging with India in 1975, or today what is Bhutan? In fact, Bhutan has also had a treaty with India, that Bhutan's foreign policy considerations will be guided by India's interest. So can we still call Bhutan a sovereign country? We'll say yes. Because who signed the agreement first of all with India? Bhutan. Bhutan had the option of not signing the agreement also. Okay. So theoretically speaking, Bhutan is sovereign. I'm saying theoretically speaking. Practically, obviously, they are guided by India's considerations, because Bhutan is dependent on India, Nepal is dependent on India for survival. So technically speaking, yes, they are sovereign states.
Okay. But then we don't call Bhutan or Nepal protected states.
No.
Sikkim a protected state.
Sikkim is now a part of India.
Now a part of India. Then it used to be a
Protectorate,
protected state.
now protectorate means, now since you asked this question, the term protectorate means their security is our considerations. Okay, now 1857 to 1947, 1/3 of India also consisted of the princely states. Were the princely states sovereign? No. In their internal affairs, they were largely free to manage their relations, but then British interfered. You must have seen the movie Lagan. Teen Guna Lagan, that's what he used to say. Now, in external affairs, no, the foreign and defense were under control of the British. That is why when they became independent, there was a lapse of British paramountcy. And that's why Kashmir, Junagadh and Hyderabad, they were dreaming of independent state, having sovereignty. And what Nehru considered it was plan for Balkanization of India. So with the lapse of British paramountcy, they became independent. They were like sovereign states. But Sardar Patel and others merged them by following carrot and stick policy. Okay. Now, Amanjot is asking, sir, are handouts enough? I will say, Amanjot, handouts enough. Okay, along with class notes. Sometimes, 99% of the class will be on explanation. Hardly 1% will be on making right important points, which will not get in the material. That's it. But combine these two, make the class note the basis for understanding your material, and that will be sufficient. And don't go by what I say. I said your guiding compass will be two: syllabus as well as question bank. When we complete any topic, I'll be discussing previous year's questions also. And the ease of your handling the PYQs will decide whether you're progressing in a better way or not. So whether it is for GS, whether it is for optional, The two fundamental requirements are you should be thorough with the syllabus, like the back of your hand, I often say, and you shall be clear with the PYQs, previous year's questions. This material I have included the latest 2023 paper. If you have seen, I'm going to discuss that. Okay. So is it clear so far? What is the term state? What is the term civil society? And yes, any other questions? Can vassal states be called a state? Now, vassal state is, I will not say they do not have sovereignty in a way. Vassal states do not have sovereignty. Because the decisions are taken by the other superior power. So vassal states will not be called a state. Okay. Any other question? Yes. See, my request to all of you is that since you have joined this course, by the time you walk out of this room, or online students who log out, since you do not walk out of the room, you log out. Okay. So whatever has been taught in the class shall be crystal clear. There is no opportunity of being in 50-50. Okay. If it is clear, then I will proceed to discuss rest. What is politics? Shall I proceed? Okay. Now, here we discussed in the beginning that yes, it consists of what concerns the state, and the traditional notion of politics is that politics is concerned with the state. It concerns the state, and that is why it is called, it concerns the state. And politics is, it is considered as the study of the exercise of authority. Study of exercise of authority by government. That is what politics is concerned with. So politics is concerned with study of exercise of authority by the government. And there is a famous definition of politics by a scholar called David Easton. And David Easton, he says, what is politics? He said simply, politics is nothing. Politics is authoritative allocation. Politics is authoritative allocation of values. Simple definition. What is politics? Politics is nothing, it is authoritative allocation of values. And here there is another scholar, Machiavelli. Now Machiavelli had said, politics is nothing but politics is, he said, politics is simply the struggle for power. Struggle for power. Is politics the struggle for power? Yes. That's what we see at the domestic level, that's what you see at the international level also. Politics is nothing but struggle for power. In India, now anybody from Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, MP and Mizoram also. Elections are going to take place in November, and December 5 results will be out. So who is competing for power there? It's largely between Congress and BJP. Politics is struggle for power. That is called as power view of politics. And this struggle for power is who will be exercising the authority of the government. In many states like Rajasthan, like in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan who is ruling? Congress. In Madhya Pradesh who is ruling? BJP. And they're challenging each other. Whosoever will be voted to power, that will be seen after the elections. So politics is nothing but the struggle for power. David Easton says politics is authoritative allocation of values. Now this term authoritative allocation of values, it consists three terms. You need to understand. Authority, allocation, values. Okay. What is meant by first of all authoritative? Authoritative allocation and values. That's what David Easton says. Allocation is simply distribution. Allocation is nothing but it is called as distribution. So one more thing, if my handwriting is not legible, please let me know. Sometimes, while writing fast, I have the habit of writing in a doctor's way. Okay. So allocation simply means distribution. Values means something which is important, something which is valuable, and authoritative means which have somebody which has power to do that, somebody having the power to do that, somebody or something having power to do that. That is authority. For example, who has the authority to direct a traffic policeman? If I'm wearing white t-shirt, okay. So if I stand in this traffic red light near Vajiram, if I start diverting the traffic, nobody will obey me. Who are you? Why are you becoming Chaudhary? I know, standing in the middle of the road. He is mad or what? But if I don the uniform of a traffic policeman, when I say stop, everybody will stop. When I say go, everybody will go. Because you accept that traffic policeman has the power to direct the traffic. Your parents scold you. Sometimes when a parent scold you and you listen silently. Koi baat nahi. If a third party scolds you, you will say, Acha, who are you? How do you scold me? That's like this, You recognize that your parents have a right to scold you. If I say, remember, when class teacher walked into the classroom, what I as a student also, all of you must be doing, we used to stand up and in a chorus we used to say, good morning sir, good morning ma'am. Who told you to get up? Nobody. But you recognize that a class teacher is our teacher and you stand up and wish the teacher. If principal walks in the corridor of the school, if you happen to see the principal, you will try to become very disciplined. And you say, good morning ma'am, good morning sir. That is because you recognize the authority of the principal. Authority means somebody has a power to do that. Okay. I still remember, my PT teacher used to call me that the back, your hair should be above your collar. If it touches the collar, for boys I'm saying, if it touches the collar, then he used to hold us like this. Now we recognize that it is his power to enforce the discipline. But if somebody dares to hold me like this, then I will not accept that. So authority means somebody has the power to do that. Allocation talks about is distribution. And values is something which is important. Now, one example, if I give you corona vaccine. When corona vaccine came, there was memes in social media also that somebody who is proposing to his girlfriend is opening the vaccine, that take this vaccine, that this vaccine is very valuable. Now 3 years back, the entire world was in the grip of pandemic. What was the most valuable? Have the corona vaccine. Now, corona vaccine came in India. Government decided a priority list. Who was given the first vaccine? The adult population. The frontline workers, doctors, sanitation staff, senior citizens, and those having comorbidities above 45 years of age. Then came our number, and then came the number of the children. Because vaccines were in short supply. There was scarcity. Vaccines were in short supply, there was scarcity. So who decided that who will get the vaccines in which order? It is the government decided that. And government is having a power to do that. Okay. If I tell you, there is also the civilian awards in India. Civilian awards in India, Bharat Ratna, Padam Shri, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan. Okay. Now these awards are given for outstanding contribution to the service of India. And who does that? It is the government does that. So you'll find when Congress comes in power, it gives, whichever party comes in power, whether Congress or BJP, it tries to award its own people who are closer to the ruling party the civilian awards. For example, Narendra Modi government gave Vajpayee, former Prime Minister Vajpayee, the Bharat Ratna, while Rajiv Gandhi gave while Congress party gave former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi Bharat Ratna. So two government of two different parties gave Bharat Ratna to their respective former prime ministers. Is Bharat Ratna? Bharat Ratna means you have done something extraordinary for the country. Then only you will be given said highest award. Is it distribution? Who does that? Government. Okay. So this is authoritative allocation of values, and Machiavelli talks about politics is struggle for power. So traditional notion of politics, it concerns the state. Whereas the modern notion of politics is that, now the modern notion of politics is that this politics is obviously, it says it goes beyond the state. It goes beyond the state, and it considers politics is now a social process. Politics is now a social process. What is the meaning of social process? Which covers the entire society. And politics is now the social process, and politics is what we do to make, preserve, and amend rules. Amend rules which govern us. Which govern us. So the modern definition of politics has moved beyond the state, moved beyond the personal of the state, moved beyond the study of the state, and said this politics is now not confined to the state. Politics now considered as a vital social process. And this politics, goes beyond the state. It's a vital social process, and this process is about how we are going to make rules, how we are going to preserve the rules, how we are going to amend the rules under which we live. If I give you one example, so politics is now considered as a social activity. It permeates social activity. It's a social process. It is not confined to the state. It has gone beyond the state. Now, in Delhi also and in many parts of the state, different cities, you'll find there's a term called as RWA. What is RWA? Resident Welfare Association, where people of a community, they form the organization to manage the common affairs. Now, my RWA says that 10 to 6 in the night, 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., the gates of the colony will be closed. Okay. And many people protested that why 10 to 6? Instead, you should make it 11 to 6. Those who come late from work, they say make it 12 to 6. But others say no, 12 to 6, it's not time. Nowadays winter approaching, it's dark by the time 6 o'clock, it is total dark. And with lot of instances of, snatching and stealing happening, for our security, let us go for 10 to 6. I still remember once, I had to catch an early morning flight. Now my cab wala came at 4 o'clock. The gates was closed. I had to literally jump off the gate. Else I would not have been able to catch my flight also. Now I protested that at least my side, give me a spare key so that I come out and I lock it. They say if we give you a spare key, everybody will be demanding spare key. And what if somebody leaves the gate open then? Rule is rule. You have to observe that. So in then my society in RWA, there was a lot of different competing interest. There was a divergence of opinion how to make, preserve and amend the rules. And politics is about a resolution of this conflict, about how you're going to make or manage our rules. So politics is what takes place in RWA also. And RWA is different from the state. Politics is what takes place in farmers' society also. Now, farmers' agitation. You will study in your GS classes that there were 3 farm laws which Modi government had passed, and these 3 farm laws were taken back by the government on the public protest. For 1 year, the farmers had camped in Delhi, on the borders of Delhi, and they were saying that these laws were against our interest. They pressurized the government. All this will be considered a part of politics. So politics is now no more concerned with the state only. Politics is now considered as a social activity. It permeates every aspect of society, and politics is how we make, preserve and amend rules, how we are going to resolve the conflicts among people while deciding about these rules, the way we have here. If I ask in this class that our time is 2:30 to 5, allow me till 5:30 every day, and then all of you will be giving you different reasons. If we decide that, okay, no, I will stick to 2:30 to 5 only, this will be politics also. Because are we going to make, preserve and amend the rules? That is part of politics. So the traditional notion of politics was confined to the state. Now politics is considered as a broader activity. It includes many non-state aspects also. It is considered as a part of social process, where we make, preserve and amend the rules under which we live. So politics is now considered, the modern notion of politics is at a broader definition as compared to traditional notion which says political science begins and ends with state. It goes beyond the state. So this is the difference between traditional as well as modern notion of politics. Now, politics is what concerns the state. Now we say politics is more than the state itself. Politics is about social process. And this is as far as spheres of politics is concerned, it is said that the traditional view is that the traditional view of politics talked about separation between public and private sphere. Public sphere and private sphere. Now this sphere means, if you're talking about politics, okay, fine, which all areas which we consider that they are a part of the politics. This traditional definition was given by a scholar called Aristotle, that we are going to discuss. He said, politics needs to be confined to the public sphere only. Politics needs to confine to public sphere only, and private sphere is a non-political sphere. Private sphere is a non-political sphere. Where private sphere is what we talk about, public sphere and private sphere. Public sphere is that sphere where collective issues are discussed, while private sphere is that sphere where individual and interpersonal spheres are discussed. Interpersonal issues are discussed. So the traditional notion of politics is what Aristotle said, that politics is an activity is confined only to what is called as public sphere, also called as political sphere. That those issues which are concerned with collective issues only, politics is applicable only in that sphere. And the personal issues, personal issues of private sphere, these are beyond the control of the state, they are non-political sphere. Now one question arises that what do you mean by public sphere? What do you mean by private sphere? When you talk about collective issues, what are the collective issues? What are the interpersonal issues? For example, your faith and worship. Whether you are agnostic, atheist, or theist, that is your personal sphere. State is not bothered with that. Okay, politics is not bothered with that. Okay, so object of your faith and worship, that is part of the personal sphere. If we talk about marriage, that is a part of the private sphere. If we talk about marriage is a part of public sphere. If we talk about family, education, these are all part of the private sphere. They are not a matter of politics. If we talk about collective issues, which all things are part of the political sphere. If we talk about cabinet, parliament, political parties, cabinet, parliament, political parties, and if I talk about the cabinet, parliament, political parties, if we talk about people's movement, all these, they deal with the collective issues, and hence they are part of the public sphere or political sphere, and politics is confined to that. Whereas all these issues like whom we worship, marriage, family, education, art and culture, all these are part of the private sphere, non-political sphere, where politics should not be bothered with that. So traditional sphere of politics, it separates the issues into public issues and private issues. The state's role is confined, or politics is confined only with the political sphere or public sphere. The private sphere is a realm of individual freedom, sphere of individual freedom, where state will not be allowed to intervene. And this politics does not operate here. So it's non-political sphere, politics does not operate here. Politics doesn't operate here, and it is called as political sphere where politics operates. Politics operates. This is a traditional distinction between public and private sphere. Who gave that? Aristotle. I just discussed, when did Aristotle live? Ancient Greece. What was the period? More than 2500 years back. He made the distinction between public and private sphere. In short, public sphere deals with collective issues, while private sphere deals with the individual and interpersonal issues. Interpersonal issues, whom to marry, is it not interpersonal issue? Yes. Nowadays there is a tradition of living relationship also. Whom you want to live in, it's your choice, interpersonal. Family, education, art and culture, interpersonal relations, state will not interfere in that. So this is public sphere and the private sphere. Now this traditional distinction that politics operates only in the public sphere and politics does not operate in the private sphere, it also corresponds to what we have just discussed, that is the distinction between state and distinction between civil society. It means politics is concerned with state, while private sphere, civil society belongs to the private sphere. And is civil society autonomous of the state? Not in control of the state, free from control of state. So that's why you find the difference between state and civil society. Which business I'm going to use, which business I'm going to pursue, that is my choice. State will only make certain regulations, that's it. State has no business to interfere in my personal sphere or private sphere. That is the difference between state and civil society also, where state corresponds to the public sphere while civil society corresponds to the private sphere. But this difference is challenged by the feminists, and feminists emphasize on one important slogan which I'll be discussing: personal is political. Personal is political. This was given by Carol Hanisch, a radical feminist. She gave the term personal is political. It means if we talk about politics, politics is about where one group dominates the other. Fine. I said politics is struggle for power. If we consider that in public sphere or political sphere, one group dominates the other. When we look into the family also, we find it is the same thing, domination. One group dominates the other. In family, who dominates whom? It is the male who dominates the female. So they question this arbitrary divide of public and private sphere. They say no, politics operates both in public sphere as well as in private sphere also. You cannot confine politics only to the public sphere. It is in private sphere you find the family is a part of private sphere. Here also politics operates. If we consider politics as where one group dominates the other. For example, in your politics classes you must have discussed about there is an act Indian government has passed, Domestic Violence Act. Indian government has also passed the UAPA Act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It is in news recently. Certain journalists were arrested. Now, UAPA, if I say this UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and this Domestic Violence Act, it deals with the public sphere and it deals with the private sphere. So does violence operates in both the sphere? Yes. You know, whenever violence takes place, one group dominates the other generally. So it means feminists say, when we talk about power as domination, we find it what happens in the public sphere also. We find it what happens in the private sphere also. Private sphere is personal sphere. That is why they say personal is political. The way one group dominates the other in public sphere. For example, is Congress party being dominated by BJP in the political sphere? Yes. There are two coalitions, NDA versus India. Who's having upper hand? Who's the ruling party today? BJP, NDA. It is dominating the India. It's domination. The domination which we see in the public sphere also takes place in the private sphere. Who dominates in private sphere? It is the male which dominates the female. When I teach you feminism, take out your syllabus. Take out the syllabus, all of you. Yes, Sash, very good example. Now, take out syllabus. Paper 1, section 8, topic number 8. Political ideologies. Paper 1, section 8, topic number 8. Can you see political ideologies? Is there an ideology of feminism? When I teach you feminism, I said this slogan was given by Carol Hanisch. Personal is political. And Sash is given example of triple talaq. What is triple talaq? Does it govern the marriage relation? Yes. So does state also interface in a personal sphere or not? Yes. Personal is political. If I ask you here, education. You know, whenever there is a change in power in the government, BJP and Congress, when they come to power, they change the history books. Certain chapters are included, certain chapters are excluded. Because education is also under control of the state. Do we have a new education policy here in India? Yes. Nowadays graduation will be of 4 years instead of 3 years. 4 years, same pattern which is in US. And art and culture, does the government bans a particular book? Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children is banned in India. So here marriage also, has the Indian government put an affidavit in Supreme Court that same-sex marriage cannot be legalized, because marriage means marriage between two heterosexual individuals. It's not a marriage between two same-sex individuals, whether male or female. So whom you want to be a partner? Who's interfering in that? Even state is interfering. Hindu personal laws are reformed by the state. Muslim personal laws are also reformed by the state. The state also interferes in your family affair. Personal is political. So this difference between spheres of politics, public sphere as well as private sphere. The traditional notion of politics says that politics operates only in the public sphere. Politics does not operate in the private sphere. Feminists say no. If we consider politics as domination, we find that the same domination happens in public sphere as well as in private sphere. That is why Carol Hanisch gave the statement, personal is political. And the second sphere of the politics, apart from this public sphere and private sphere, the second sphere is also talked about. It is called as domestic and international. Domestic and international. They say domestic politics operates in domestic sphere. Domestic means internal matter, while international politics operates in international sphere. But this age of globalization, it is said, the difference between domestic and international issues has collapsed, because domestic issues also impact the international sphere and vice versa. I will give you one example, Khalistan issue. This Khalistan issue, what is Khalistan issue? It's a demand to create a separate Khalistan. Khalistan means land of Khalsa. Sixth word, there was a demand for Khalistan, secessionism. It is India's internal matter. Sikh militancy in Punjab, or if I say the correct word is Punjab militancy, was based on the demand for Khalistan. Punjab and country had to pay a great price to suppress the demand for Khalistan movement. India's internal matter, fine. Is it impacting our relationship with Canada? Yes. The recent tussle between Indian government and Canadian government. That Indian government said Canadian government is soft on separatist working on Canadian soil. So does the internal issue has affected the international dimension also? Yes. If I give you another example. Now, this corona, where did corona emerge as a virus? I said, sorry, COVID-19. Let me be clear. COVID-19 in China. Was it a China domestic issue? Yes. Pandemic emerged in China. In Wuhan, it was there. Wuhan animal market, where it emerged. But did it impact all the dimensions? International dimension? Yes. Why? Because globalization. What is globalization? Free movement of people, goods, capital and technology. China is world's second largest economy, integrated with the world economy. So many foreigners came to China, they went. Many Chinese went to different parts of the world. Many airplanes, ships, containers, everything happened. And that's how corona became a global pandemic. So this traditional separation between domestic and international, that politics is confined to the domestic sphere and that is operates different. Yes, that is, it cannot be here. So this has collapsed. So basically, I have discussed today two main concepts, or three rather. I've discussed political, It's come from the word politics. And politics means Greek city, state. It concerns the state. That's what the traditional notion of politics. Now the modern notion is it confined to the entire, not state, but it covers the social process. I also discussed the difference between state and civil society. Where state is largely what we say the government. Government is the agent of the state. The concept of state came in the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648, and state has four elements: people, government, sovereignty, and territory. Civil society, it belongs to the private sphere, and a state belongs to the public sphere. Politics as an activity, traditional notion says it is confined only to the public sphere and not includes a private sphere. Private sphere, as I said, it is a non-political sphere. But feminists say personal is political. So I discussed state, civil society, politics, traditional and modern notion of politics. I discussed sphere of politics, where I discussed between public and private sphere. I discussed between domestic and international. And if you have a look at the material, come to the material, all of you. Okay. Now here you can see, just a second. Now this handout, what is politics, that I have explained on page number, just a second, page number 1, and you can see that's what David Easton called as authoritative allocation of values. That's what I said. And now the modern writers, come to next page, page number 10. It says modern writers have increasingly recognized politics does not operate strictly, but politics permeates entire social fabric. So politics is treated as a social process rather than being confined to the institutions of state. And politics is the activity through which people make, preserve, and amend the general rules within which they live. And as such, there is diversity and conflict of opinion. The example I gave you about RWA, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, that is diversity of the conflict. And you can see spheres of politics where we draw a distinction between the public as well as the private spheres of human life. And this, we confine the use of the term politics to the institutions and activities falling within the public sphere. Which all institutions? Cabinet, parliament, election campaigns, political parties, people movement, they are all part of the public sphere. But the faith, worship, content of education, they do not belong to the sphere of politics. And next page you can see the traditional distinction between public sphere and private sphere. Realm is a word used for sphere, you can say. The distinction between public realm and private realm forms a division between state as well as civil society. So state belongs to the public sphere, civil society belongs to the private sphere, non-political sphere. The state will be controlling the political sphere only, state will not be controlling the private sphere. And civil society is a part of private sphere. And here, now the term public means which are responsible for collective organization of community life. Moreover, they are funded at public expense out of taxation. Whereas civil society includes family, kinship groups, etc. They are set up and funded by the individual citizens to satisfy their own interest rather than that of the larger society. And how radical feminists say, it gave the slogan, personal is political. Radical feminists question this traditional separation. They say it's not political and the public and the private sphere, but it is personal sphere is also political. And a distinction has been drawn between domestic as well as international sphere. And how I said, in the age of globalization, this distinction has collapsed, interdependent world. And what is state, as you can see, The concept of state is regarded as a central theme of traditional political theory. R.G. Gatel defined political science as the science of the state, while Garner claimed that political science begins and ends with the state. State was a central concept. And state has having 4 elements, which are population, territory, government, and sovereignty, that I have discussed. And you can see Max Weber, and you can see this before that. If state represents an abstract concept, government is its concrete form. Authority of the state is exercised by the government. Functions of the state are performed by the government. And Max Weber defined state. If anybody asks you, what is the definition of the state? Simply gives Max Weber definition. And Max Weber says, a state is a human community that successfully claims the monopoly of the legitimate use of physical force within a given territory. That is what is Max Weber's definition is. Okay. Yes, you're asking questions? कम कर दूं या बढ़ा दूं? Are you feeling it is too chilled? Okay, please call somebody. I think back में there is some problem. Is it too chilled? Who's saying no? अच्छा. Now this is where diversity of conflict takes place. And how to resolve this? By give and take. That is, willingness should be there. So politics is about conflict resolution. I will go by what democracy says, majority. Yes, how many is yes, it is too chilled? Raise your hands. Okay. Please, bache, please call somebody. Yes. Tell him to make the temperature 24. Just tell him. Okay. Yes, okay. Any question now? Prajwal is saying that when we say definition of politics has evolved from what concerns the state to what concerns people, as it now also operates in the private sphere also. Feminists will say yes. It operates in the private sphere also, yes. Feminists, in fact, this question, this traditional definition, and that's how it has ignored the issues confronting women, because they were, no, if state is concerned only with the political matters, and whatever matter concerned women was said to be part of the family, part of the non-political sphere, it means state cannot interfere. And that's what feminists say, it is to legitimize the exploitation practices against women. For example, you must have heard about sati. Sati practice was banned by the East Indian government led by Lord William Bentinck. So what is sati? Is it part of the people's religious customs and traditions? State banning that, was it required? Yes. Now what was sati? Marxists have interpreted sati, that sati was depriving women from property of her husband. And that's how it was said, the woman is pativrata, devoted to her husband. What is a test to do that? If she jumps into the funeral pyre of her husband. The opposite was not true. If a wife died, husband would not jump. Now why this notion of devotedness to your partner is imposed on women only? Feminists question that. It was patriarchy operating in the form of sati. Okay. Now physical force in Weber's definition. Okay. Now this legitimate use of physical force. Now, now Sash, if I say, which city you are in, if I say, suppose if you are in Mumbai or Delhi also, when you go to the metro, okay, especially in Rajiv Chowk, okay. Now Sash, I hope you must have been to Mumbai also. Okay. Now what happens in Mumbai local train? That's what happens in exactly Delhi metro at Rajiv Chowk. Okay. Now when the gate opens, okay, the loudspeaker keeps on blaring that let the people come out, then you can board the train. Let the people deboard, then you can board the train. What happens? It is the reverse. Okay. Now, if police starts lathi charging people, that it will lead to stampede. Please maintain the rule. That will be considered as legitimate. But if I take up a lut and start beating people, now people will beat me because I'm not a part of state. Who has the right authority to control the crowd? Police. When police engages in lathi charge, when army comes on the streets and shoots the troublemakers, it is considered as legitimate. If I go in the street and start shooting others, that will be considered as illegitimate. That is the point. Okay. Yes. So this is only I have concept just discuss civil society, state, politics, public and private sphere. That's enough for today. Let me discuss the questions. Discuss the syllabus which I was discussing earlier. Now come to page number 1 here. And in syllabus you can see that first is we have to discuss Western political thought and Indian political thought. I have just dropped the names of 2 thinkers. Have I discussed Machiavelli? He says politics is struggle for power. I have just dropped the name of Aristotle. Okay. And Mahatma Gandhi. When we teach Mahatma Gandhi was critical of the state. Mahatma Gandhi said, for me, state is a violence in concentrated form. Mahatma Gandhi said, when I see an increase in power of the state, I fear a lot. Because state should not be there. Mahatma Gandhi is an anarchist. Anarchist is basically a person who believed that there should be no authority above the individual. So Mahatma Gandhi's view on state was different from Machiavelli, view was different from Aristotle. Ambedkar, Ambedkar supported a strong centralized state, unlike what Gandhi had supported. So basically, in both Indian political thought and Western political thought, we'll study about the ideas and thoughts of the thinkers. Okay, what they said about issues and times of their time. It is basically, political thought is said to be a systematic reflection. In short, we can say it is said to be a systematic reflection by a particular thinker on the political issues of their time. So Ambedkar talked about caste system. Ambedkar had said famously, you must have heard about Tilak's slogan, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. Ambedkar said, if Tilak were an untouchable, he would not have said so. If Tilak were an untouchable, the first thing he would have said, abolition of untouchability is my birthright and I shall have it. Ambedkar was he was a tallest leader of the Dalits even today, and is father of Indian Constitution. Why he said so? For that you have to study in which time he lived. Now along with that, when we discuss these different concepts, now if we talk about justice, concept of justice, equality, rights, democracy, power. Now topic number 3, 4, 5, 6. Are they also included in India's preamble? Are they included in India's preamble? Yes. Indian preamble says, we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign. I would just discuss the meaning of sovereign. Socialist. See, socialist. Sovereign, socialist, secular. That started with Machiavelli. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic. That is democracy. A republic. That is obviously included with democracy. What is democracy? Famous definition of Abraham Lincoln. Democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. Okay. So here we will all be discussing these concepts in detail. Now, if I discussed about Manipur situation, our preamble also includes the terms dignity of the individual and territorial integrity of the nation. The term dignity of the individual, if I talk about the term equality, the term rights, are these all violated in Manipur situation? Yes or no? Equality, Metis have their own problem with Kukis, Kukis have their own problem with Metis. Dignity, everybody's dignity is inviolable. If you ever has been slapped by anybody except your parents, did you ever feel indignant? It boils the blood. Yes, how dare that person slapped me, even if it's your sibling. Obviously, I had a tussle with my brother also, and then he slapped me. And then what happened? That the point is, dignity is also important. And what happened in Hamas, Israel? I think a very unfortunate incident. What is repetition of what happened in Manipur? And that is a violation of human rights. So rights, that's what we'll be discussing. There are various types of rights. What are the theories of rights? What are the theories of dignity and equality that we'll be discussing in detail? When I talk about justice, and justice, you have to understand that justice is, if I ask you, what do you mean by justice? Justice is giving people what is their due. If I ask you, all of you competing in this examination, suppose you secure 956 marks, highest marks in your final examination, and still if you are not given rank 1, will you feel that it is an injustice to you? Yes. The main fight between Israelis and Palestinians. Palestinians say, Israelis came, took away our land. They have stolen our land from us, robbed us of our land. And that's why we want our land. It's my legitimate right. And justice will only prevail when we get back what was ours. Talk about justice. So if you believe in giving justice what is due, that may be different arguments. Israelis will say, entire state of Israel was promised land promised to us by God. That belongs to us. Palestinians will say, no, it belongs to us also. The point is that how you are going to ensure peace in Israel unless you ensure the equality and dignity of the Palestinians. There will be no peace in Israel. So now when we discuss these concepts, why these concepts are important, that we have to discuss by relating to our everyday life example. If I say I'm taking up questions only of offline students and not of online students, is it an inequality? Yes. Is it violation of their rights? Yes. They are basically consumers. And is it violation of their equality? Yes. So now the best way to understand is by relating it to our everyday life examples, how it is important. And political theory, that I'll be discussing this topic in the last. Okay. Theories of the state, I've discussed what is state. Liberals say, new liberals say, post-colonial, and feminists say different. Feminists is basically they champion the women issues. And feminists will say, recently 1/3 reservation was given to women by passing the law in the parliament. Why only 1/3? Why only 1/3? And that too, one of the MPs, women MP, she said in parliament, you are showing us laddu, showing that this laddu belongs to you, but you cannot have it right now. When will the reservation come into effect? After the delimitation. And when delimitation takes place? After census. Theoretically, you have given us, but practically we cannot eat that laddu. What is the fayda? Now that is how you're going to understand is feminists say this is nothing, one-third reservation is a scheme of the males to prevent entry of females in the parliament. And how, despite 75 years of independence, if you see India's neighbors, Pakistan and Nepal, they have assured representation to women. And India, so-called the world's largest democracy, has not given women the due place in the parliament and state legislature. This is violation of our rights. If we go by proportionate equality, women constitute 50% of India's population, and Indian democracy will not be representative unless women are given 50% reservation. So when they see the state, their interpretation, feminist interpretation of the Indian state will be, Indian state is largely patriarchal. Indian state largely protects the male values and interest. The state has to ensure equality to women. So what this is, ideology or any theories like a lens which you are putting before our eyes. If you put a red lens, will the world seem different to you? If you put yellow lens, will the world seem different to you? If you put the green lens, the world will seem different to you. That's how is the interpretation we are going to discuss. So after doing 8, 9 and 10, I think these are going to be the basics. Understanding rest of the topics becomes easier. Now in the second part, paper 1 section B, where we find Indian government and politics. Now here, as I say, you have to be very careful because your answers which you will be writing, your understanding of GS polity and history will obviously be important, but to write an answer of optional, as I said, you have to link it with theories which we have discussed. You have to link it with analysis of the scholars also. So in GS we go for the superficial reading. In optional we go a little deeper. And that's what is going to make your answer different from that of the other answers. And here you can see the syllabus starts with Indian nationalism because Constitution was a product of Indian nationalism. Indian Constitution, for example, if I say in India the term secularism is included. Why? Because India had rejected two-nation theory. India, the term Indian Constitution democracy is there because that's what Indians have been demanding, the right to self-determination from the British. And you can see making of the Indian constitutions, and with this we are going to discuss the major features of Indian Constitution. So major features like federalism, and what you see, what you have read in your polity will obviously be helpful. That will be unnecessary but not sufficient. I'm using the two words, keep in mind, necessary but not sufficient. So when we teach you federalism, we have to discuss how Indian federalism has operated over the years. For example, I will be teaching it by linking it with party system in India. Federalism, the dynamics of federalism and party system in India are very evident. It is said that whenever there is one party rule, for example, one party rule at the center, Indian Constitution, Indian polity becomes more centralized. And whenever there is multi-party rule in India, it becomes more federal. What is federal means? Sharing of power. So this one party rule, whether it was Congress from 1947 till 1967, or which BJP from 2014 to 2024, centralized tendency have been there. And whenever there is a multi-party rule, it is more federal. For example, from 1989 till 2014. Third phase of Indian party system. This is the first phase, this is the fourth phase, this is the third phase of Indian party system. It is said. So how we'll be studying, linking it with, if I say issues of political party system. We will also be discussing the influence of caste, religion and ethnicity in Indian politics. You must be aware about the Ram temple is going to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister next year. And this Ram temple movement, it played a very important role in meteoric rise of the BJP. In 1984 elections, BJP had only 2 MPs in the Lok Sabha. And in 2019 elections, it became 303. How many times? 1500 times. There is one of the reason was BJP extended its appeal to the people, and religion, use of religion was very important. It is not only BJP which is using religion in politics. All the other political parties, they're also guilty of using religion in politics. When I teach you political parties or use of religion, we will be discussing a very important case called Shah Bano case, 1986. So how Rajiv Gandhi government, it passed a law to overturn Supreme Court judgment on Shah Bano. How it was Rajiv Gandhi government, it opened the locks of the Babri Masjid and use of religion. It was because use of religion that the problem of Punjab, the demand for Khalistan happened. So all this we'll be discussing in detail. And all these topics are interlinked. And the best way to understand or the best way to score more marks in optional is link paper 1 and paper 2. And that's what we'll be referring to. For example, if I say, can you see party system is here, topic number 10. Can you see social movements is here? Paper 1, section B, topic number 10 and 11. Party system and social movements are there. Okay. And you can see in paper 1 also, section A, I discussed the very second topic is theories of the state. Move to paper 2 syllabus. Paper 2 syllabus. And can you see the second topic of both paper 1 and paper 2 in section A, it is state. It is state in comparative perspective. Have I discussed the party system here and social movements here, which we will be discussing in India? You also find you will be studying here. So a good way of understanding, getting the command over the subject is that you have to interlink the topics. Paper 1 as well as paper 2. Okay. So that's what I will stop for here today. Now I'll ask Iqbal sir to interact with you. And for tomorrow's class, now I'll be taking you a class for till this week, before Iqbal sir comes in to discuss introduction of the class. Now before you come to the class, I will again request all of you to go through whatever has been given in your material. And it's always advisable to read the material before coming to the class. See, if you want to get the best from this course, it is always advisable that you read material before coming to the class. And that's my experience also, that you can also get the best out of the teacher. It also depends upon the students. Okay. So the more prepared you come, the better questions you will be asking and better your understanding will be. Okay. So just wait for 2 minutes, online students. Is somebody outside? Please call him. Okay. By the way, please have a look at the question paper also. This year's question paper. And if you see the question paper, please call Iqbal sir. Okay. If you see the question paper, you find here that Questions are asked in forms of 10 markers, 15 marks, and 20 marks question. That's it. Okay. In all, you have to answer 19 questions out of, if I say 8, 10 plus 6, 6, 18, out of the 28 questions. And to answer 10 marks question, you have 7 minutes. To answer 15 marks question, you have 10 minutes. And to answer 20 marks question, you have 15 minutes. Why? Calculate it. You'll find the same thing. And you know, when you appear for the main examination, you will be getting question answer booklet. If I say this is your question paper, the last part will be your question paper which you can tear, and in that question will be written, space will be given for writing the answer, then next question, then space writing will be there. And a UPSC examination is different from the conventional university examination, because in UPSC examination space is limited, time is limited, and the biggest challenge before you will be finishing paper on time next year, and you have to attempt all the 19 questions. Now, how 19 questions, that I will be explaining tomorrow. Keep in mind, you have 7 minutes, 10 minutes and 15 minutes to write 10 marks, 15 marks question and 20 marks question. And you know, this examination is about answer writing. You know, it does not depend on how much you know. It depends on how much you are able to reproduce what you know in 180 minutes. And that is going to decide your selection. So, you know, again, I'm telling you, if you want to get the best from this course, right from first class itself, keep two things in mind: syllabus, thorough knowledge of the syllabus, and PYQs, previous year's questions. Because, you know, suppose you come across any new topic, just try to relate with how does that topic links with your syllabus, and once you link it with, what probable questions can be asked. Okay, so that you need to understand, and that will come gradually. And you know, we are ready to work hard, and it is also depends on you, that if you're ready to work hard, obviously it takes two to clap hands, it takes two to tango. Okay, so tomorrow I will start with a discussion on FSU material. What is political thought? What is political science? What is political philosophy? What is the difference between them? I will also be discussing the ancient Greece, which is given in a material, because we'll be starting with Western political thought. And why we started with Western political thought, I gave you that this Western political thought gives the base of our understanding of the rest of the syllabus. That is important for us to understand. And keep in mind, if you have good knowledge of topic number 8, 9 and 10 of paper 1 section A, that will be helpful to you in your essay also. That will be helpful for you in your ethics also, because in ethics also you have to study these philosophers. And come to syllabus paper, if I say, now paper 1 section A, topic number 3. Can you see there is a topic called Rawls theory of justice? And Rawls theory of justice, you will find a question in ethics paper has been asked from Rawls theory of justice. Obviously, your understanding of this paper is going to help you immensely. Okay. Yes, any questions? See, now Hindu, whatever material you will be getting in the form of handout before the class, that will be sufficient as far as for the purpose of this examination is concerned. Because these materials have been culled and compiled from the standard books itself. So it is purpose is to reduce your labor. Okay. So just be confined to whatever material is being given in the class, that will be sufficient for the purpose of examination. Yes, any other questions? Any other issue which are not understood, please ask. And please feel free to address your questions. Do not sit with unresolved doubt in your mind. That is not expected from a good student. And I hope all of you consider yourself a good student. Shall I lock it? That you consider yourself a good student? Please ask any questions, anything. Yes, online students also. Anything which you want to clarify, anything which is not clear, please ask. Yes. Yes. No. Education, now that we'll discuss when we teach you Aristotle. Okay, and that is with reference to what we will be discussing in Plato. Okay. When I teach you Plato talked about communism of family and wives, property. Okay. So Aristotle said that is not going to be the thing, and both Plato and Aristotle, they believed that education ought to be under control of the state. When I talk about public-private sphere, what he basically meant was family should be separate from the state. The way Plato had made, he abolished family for the rulers. He said that is not required. In that context, I said. So traditional distinction was started from Aristotle, public-private dichotomy, and that's what feminists also consider it one of the reasons why women's issues have been out from political perspective. Of all the political philosophers we are going to discuss, only Plato and J.S. Mill, they talked about women issues. Rest never talked about. Yes, why? That is the reason, one of the reasons for that. So in that sense, it is public-private divide. In fact, Plato said Aristotle said the role of a statesman and the role of a father is different. And Plato confused the role of a statesman with that of the father. How? That we are going to see. In that context it was. Okay. Yes? Yes.
When we look at the syllabus, we see that we have Indian political thought and Western political thought. We have ancient thinkers and modern. Are there no medieval thinkers?
Now, there are no medieval thinkers. In fact, some consider Machiavelli too on the cusp of modernity. Some consider that it is Hobbes who is the first modern thinker. Others consider no, it is Machiavelli. The reason is UPSC. UPSC named so. If you study, in graduation in Delhi University and other universities, there is medieval thinkers. Yeah, please go. So I give space to Iqbal sir, and he will introduce you to the rest of the topics.
Good evening, students. Good evening, all of you. Good evening, online students. My name is Iqbal Singh, and I'll also take your PSIR optional classes. You just had interaction with Sushant sir. He will take your lectures on PSIR paper 1, and I'll take your lectures on PSIR paper 2. And just a brief introduction, just how about the optional paper and also particularly PSIR paper 2. And I'm sure you all must be very well aware that as far as the PSIR optional paper is concerned, it is a combination of two different streams. One is political science and one is international relations. In your paper 1 discussion, like you must have discussed with Sushant sir, you'll go to concentrate on political theory, Indian government and politics, political thought, the thinkers you must have discussed, Aristotle, Plato, Gandhi, or Aurobindo, these such things. When we talk about PSIR paper 2, we are going to particularly have a discussion on international relations. PSIR paper 2 is more about international relations, discussion on international relations. It is also divided into two sections, section A and section B. Section A is more theoretical in nature, and section B is going to be more of India's foreign policy, India's relationship with the world. I must tell all of you that you've all made a very wise choice to take up this optional PSIR, because one of the best best part about this optional is that there is going to be a great deal of overlap between the PSIR optional syllabus and the GS papers. That is the reason why this optional subject has been so successful. This is the reason why PSIR optional students, they tend to do very well in this exam, because the amount of hard work they put into preparation of political science and international relations are also able to do very well in GS papers, because a large amount of GS syllabus is going to get covered in your PSIR preparation itself. As you all must be very well aware, GS paper 2 is all about international relations and polity. And polity is also part of your PSIR paper 1 syllabus, which you must just had a discussion with the Sushant sir. And PSIR paper 2, which is all about international relations, will take care of all the questions which you get in GS on international relations. Then also, if you are aware, you have an essay paper also in the mains stage, where you are supposed to write essays. And these days we are seeing that the trend is that more and more philosophical kind of essays are being asked in the UPSC. You're given 8 choices and you have to write 2 essays. And a PSIR student would also be able to will be in a better position to attempt this essay paper also, because you tend to do all topics. You do political theory, you do philosophy, you tend to study ideology, you also tend to study the Indian foreign policy. So all the top areas are covered on which probable essays are also asked, and supposed to do very well in essay paper as well. Also then GS paper 4, which is a paper on ethics. And you can also do very well and write very good answers in the ethics paper with your background of political science and international relations, where you will do an elaborate study of all the thinkers and philosophers like Gandhi, Plato, Aristotle, Ambedkar, which also will be very helpful in your ethics paper also. So there's a great deal of overlapping between your PSIR syllabus and the GS syllabus. And that is the reason why PSIR optional students tend to be very successful. And that is the reason why this is a very, very scoring optional. And yes, of course, the syllabus seems to be, it may seem at a first look, the syllabus may seem to be, lengthy and bulky, but then you also must understand that in order to get a good reward, you have to put in good hard work. And if you put your blood and sweat into the preparation of political science and international relations, even though the syllabus seems to be bulky, but this will just not give you reward in your optional paper, but will also give you additional advantage in your remaining papers of the preparation, that is GS papers, essay paper. And that is the reason why good PSIR students tend to score very well in other papers also, and therefore their name is there in the final list. I must also tell you that it may come to your mind that while I discuss these topics also with you, you may think that there are certain dynamic topics in the PSIR optional paper. I hope you understand the difference between static and dynamic. Dynamic topics are those in which there is a particular relationship with current developments, are subject to change because of current developments. But again, I must tell you, first of all, we'll take care of everything. I will make sure that you are updated with all the current affairs also, which are needed as far as PSIR optional paper is concerned. But you cannot escape from dynamicness of the paper. If you will not do it in your optional, you anyways have to do it in your GS portions. So therefore you cannot run away from this. So PSIR students who are well aware about the current developments also, they again tend to get an advantage in your GS papers also. So this is in that way, from the perspective of this examination, civil services examination, this optional paper, PSIR optional paper tend to be very advantageous for the aspirants. And I must congratulate you that you've all made a very good choice. And in the journey for the next 5.5 months, me and Sushant sir, both of us will try our best to help you. And before we disperse, I'll just give you a brief overview of what do we study in PSIR paper 2. So like I was mentioning to you, there are 2 sections, section A and section B. Section A is regarding comparative political analysis and international relation. There are more of theoretical topics here. When I said politics, so politics, there is also something called comparative politics. Comparative politics is in PSIR paper 2 syllabus. Comparative politics means comparing political systems of different countries. So what is a political system in India is very different from political system in America. Like you must be very well aware, we have a prime ministerial form of a government, but in USA you have a presidential form of a government. And so comparing political systems of different countries doing a comparative analysis of political systems of different countries is called comparative politics. And there is a lot of methods which are there in the subject to do comparative politics, which is known as approaches to study comparative politics, which we will do in our syllabus, which are all mentioned here. For example, political economy approach, political sociology approach, political culture approach, also a political system approach. So many approaches are there in the subject to do comparative analysis of political systems between different countries. That is called comparative politics. And that is the first chapter. Then the second chapter is state in a comparative perspective. What is state in comparative perspective? I hope you know that we have seen formulation of state all over the world. It was around 17th century when the concept of state had come up. What is state? State is a political entity which has 4 features. That these 4 features are sovereignty, territory, government, and population. So the state as we know today, for example, India is also a sovereign state. So the nation state, the concept of nation state which has emerged in the world, we have to discuss also that. We'll have a discussion on this in the syllabus, that we'll have to compare and contrast state formation in different parts of the world. How concept of nation state has emerged in the developed world as compared to concept of nation state in the developing world. How the concept of nation state has emerged among the erstwhile colonizers and also the capitalist countries as compared to the concept of state emerged in the communist states. So different comparison that how state formation has happened all around the world between developed and the developing countries, between the rich and capitalist countries and the post-colonial states. All this between the industrial states and the communist states. So that is also done in the chapter 2, that is state in comparative perspective, comparing a state. Then the third is politics of representation and participation. When I talk about representation and participation, what does come to your mind? India is a representative democracy. So which are those bodies or institutions which are responsible for good functioning of our representative democracy? Political parties will come to your mind. Pressure groups will come to your mind. Social movements will come to your mind. So what are political parties? What are different types of political parties? What is the difference between political parties in Western countries and in developing countries? What is the role of pressure groups? What is the role of social movements in the society? Like recently, a few months ago, you must have seen a massive Kisan movement, farmers movement in India. That was again an example of a social movement. So what is a social movement? What is the role of social movement in a society? That is what we do in this chapter called politics of representation and participation. Then also the next chapter is going to be globalization. The chapter of globalization mentioned in multiple places in the syllabus. That is, you all know that we are today living in a world of globalization. What is globalization? Globalization is integration of the world economy. The entire world economy becoming a common market. Free trade, trade without barriers. Integration of world economy, having a world without barriers, the world becoming a common market, that is globalization. So how globalization has emerged in the world, what impact globalization has on the state, on international politics, what impact globalization have had on developed countries and developing countries. That is what we do in this particular chapter. And then comes the most important chapter of paper 2, that is approaches to study international relations, also known as theories to study international relations. Approaches to study IR or theories to study IR is one and the same thing. So when we study international relations, what approach we should follow? There are different approaches which has been recommended and suggested by philosophers in international relations. And they are known as theories of IR or approaches of IR. For example, there is a Marxist approach to study IR. There's a liberal approach to study IR. There's a realist approach to study IR. There's a constructivist approach to study IR. There is functionalism. There is system theory. So there are multiple approaches are there. These are called theories of IR. This is the most important chapter in PSIR paper 2. This is the chapter from where we will start, because this is the chapter which will make foundation for you to understand international politics. And this will be used in all the other chapters which are there in the syllabus and all the answers when we attempt questions in PSIR paper. Then next is key concepts in IR. What are the most important concepts used in study of international relations? For example, national security, national interest, nuclear proliferation, disarmament, globalization, non-state actors, the role of multinational corporations in international politics, role of terrorism in international politics. These are key concepts. Nuclear deterrence. These are most important concepts when we study international relations. What is international relations? IR is study of relations between the states of the world, study of relations between the nations of the world. So while doing that study, certain important concepts are used, and these are those key concepts, which is also a very important chapter. Then the next chapter, chapter number 7, is changing international political order. I must tell you, international relations is not a static field of study. International relation is a dynamic field of study, because international relations, they always keep on evolving, they are not static. So how IR has evolved after the end of a Second World War is also in the syllabus. If you have any basic knowledge, you must be aware that after Second World War, a period emerged in the world called Cold War period. So what was Cold War? Why did Cold War emerge? What was the impact of Cold War on the world? And then Cold War ended also with the disintegration of USSR in 1991. So what happened after the end of Cold War? What changes happened in world politics? What impact it had on India's foreign policy? Something called non-alignment, which is a non-alignment NAM movement, which was there in the context of a Cold War. India was also one of the non-aligned states. India's NAM policy, what was the relevance of NAM, and whether it has relevance today, India continues to follow it or not. All of this is in the syllabus. Also, America after the end of Cold War became the hegemon of the world. Hegemon means dominance. America started dominating the entire world. I mean, that is called American hegemony. But in the last 30 years, we are seeing that American hegemony is now declining, and a multipolar world is now emerging. All of this is in the syllabus. We study evolution of international politics, how international politics has evolved, changing international political order, Cold War period, post-Cold War period, bipolar world, getting converted into unipolar world, then getting converting into multipolar world. That is the evolution which we study in this particular chapter. Then chapter number 8 is evolution of the international economic system. That too, again, after the end of Second World War, Bretton Woods institutions were established in the world in order to govern international economy. Which are these Bretton Woods institutions? They are very popular. You may have heard about them, IMF and World Bank. So IMF and World Bank, they are called Bretton Woods institutions. Why? Because they were formed because of a conference which was held in this resort called Bretton Woods in New Hampshire in USA. That is why these institutions are called Bretton Woods institutions. So role of IMF and World Bank in international politics. Even the newly formed, the one which was formed in 1995, World Trade Organization. IMF and World Bank are much older. WTO was formed in the 90s. Role of IMF, World Bank, WTO, and their relationship with globalization. That is what is discussed in this chapter. Then you all must be very well aware about this international organization called United Nations. So formation of UN, why UN was formed, what is the purpose of UN, what has been its performance, India's contribution to UN, that is also in the syllabus. What reforms and changes are required in UN, a detailed analysis of UN, that is also in the syllabus. Then also regional organizations. UN is an international organization, but you may have also heard about regional organizations. Regional organizations are those bodies where members, they belong to a particular region of the world. For example, European countries have formed a regional organization called European Union. South Asian countries have formed a regional organization called SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. African countries have formed a regional organization called African Union. So the regional organizations are also in the syllabus which we have to study. And then contemporary global concerns, global challenges, global issues are also in the syllabus. For example, concerns regarding democracy, human rights, environment, gender justice, terrorism, nuclear proliferation. Nuclear proliferation means spread of nuclear weapons. So this is your section A. Section A is more of theoretical portion. That is as far as PSI paper 2 is concerned. Now we move on to section B. Section B is India and the world. India's relationship with the world. Indian foreign policy. Section B is entirely about India's foreign policy. Section A is theories and concepts related to international politics and most important international organizations. Section B is entirely about Indian foreign policy. The first chapter is determinants of Indian foreign policy. Which are those factors which are responsible for making Indian foreign policy, which would influence making of Indian foreign policy? For example, role of geography in Indian foreign policy, role of culture, role of history, role of economy. Also, which are those institutions which are responsible for making the policy, like Prime Minister's Office, Ministry of External Affairs, Parliament, National Security Advisor, all of this is in the syllabus. So Indian foreign policy, first chapter is about a detailed study about Indian foreign policy, where we will have discussion on various tenets of the Indian foreign policy, how foreign policy is made, what factors are responsible, which institutions are responsible. Then India's contribution towards non-alignment. I already told you that NAM is there, it is in the syllabus, just not in the section A, but also in the section B, India's role in non-alignment. Then you have the third chapter. Third chapter is India's relationship with South Asia. So our immediate neighbors, South Asian countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, these South Asian countries, Pakistan. What is the relationship which we have with these countries? What kind of disputes are there? What are the major issues? If there is a water crisis, refugee crisis, what kind of problems do exist? And also the integration of South Asia, which is being attempted by a regional organization called SAARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, which would want to do regional cooperation between South Asian countries. Whether SAARC has failed or not, whether we do see South Asia as becoming a free trade area, as an area where countries are cooperating with each other or not. As a matter of fact, I must tell you that SAARC as an organization has failed. It has not been able to ensure cooperation between South Asian countries. Why SAARC has failed? All of that also we must discuss. So the third chapter is about India's relationship with South Asia. This is the region which we belong to. Then the next is India and Global South. I hope you know what is Global South. The world is divided into these two components, Global North and Global South. Majority of the rich industrialized capitalist countries of the world are in the Northern Hemisphere. Therefore, rich and developed countries of the world are referred to as Global North. Majority of the poor and developing countries of the world, post-colonial states of the world, post-colonial states are those states which were earlier colonized and now have come out of a colonization. They are called post-colonial states, and majority of them are poor and developing countries of the world. Majority of these poor and developing countries of the world, they belong to Southern Hemisphere. Therefore, it is known as Global South. So what has been India's relationship with Global South? What is the India's relationship with Global South? India has always championed the cause of Global South. India has always defended the interests and the issues related to Global South at all global platforms. That is also in the syllabus. If you are talking about, if you have read newspapers regarding the G20 summit, you must have seen how India supported the position of a Global South. In fact, India made sure in the Delhi summit that African Union is made a member of a G20. So all of that is here in the chapter number 4. Chapter number 5 is India's relationship with global centers of power, major countries of the world, which are US, European Union, Japan, China, and Russia. So that is also there. Then India's relationship with the UN. What has been India is a founder member of UN. What has been India's contribution towards UN? What is India's role in UN? What are India's demands regarding UN reforms? India wants to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council. All of that is in your chapter number 6. Then chapter number 7 is India and the nuclear question. You are all very well aware, India is a nuclear weapon states. We have acquired nuclear weapons in 1998 by doing a nuclear test in Pokhran. So being a nuclear weapon state, what is our nuclear doctrine? It's very important. What is our nuclear posture? Very important. What is India's viewpoint on nuclear proliferation, disarmament? That is all of this here in chapter number 7. Chapter 8 is recent developments in the Indian foreign policy with respect to important countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, entire West Asia. As you must be very well aware, these days you must be reading the newspapers that Hamas has attacked Israel. There's an ongoing war between Hamas, Israel, and Gaza Strip. So this is something which is also covered here in West Asia. West Asia and Afghanistan is in chapter number 8. And also India's Israel policy and India's vision for a new world order, because new world order is emerging in right now. You know, we started after this end of Second World War, there was a Cold War period, then the post-Cold War period. Now post-pandemic world order is emerging. So what is India's viewpoint on that? India's policy with respect to Israel, India's policy with respect to, important countries like US, West Asia region, the entire West Asia. West Asia is also known as Middle East. And you must be very well aware, we have a lot of focus on Middle East and West Asia politics. All of that is in chapter number 8. So this is your PSIR syllabus, section A and section B. Section B is all about India's relationship with the world, Indian foreign policy, and section A is about more theoretical in nature, about the key concepts and theories which we study in international relations. So this is the syllabus which I would intend to cover with you in approximately 75 to 80 lectures, which I will have with you for PSIR paper 2, in which we will cover this. And I must tell you that as far as, after discussing this particular syllabus, a lot of you may develop this misunderstanding that a lot of topics are very similar to what we discuss in GS. And you are right. Yes, there is a great amount of overlapping with GS, but never do this mistake. If you have done the optional preparation, yes, you will be able to attempt GS questions, but you cannot, on the basis of your GS preparation, you cannot attempt optional answers. The biggest mistake which students are doing these days is that in the PSIR optional paper, they are writing GS answers. And that is a blunder. Then you will never score good marks. So throughout our preparation, we are going to focus on this, that how the optional answer is entirely different from a GS. When we attempt PSIR optional answer in paper 2, its nature, its content it's completely different from what we do in a GS. So never have this misunderstanding that this seems to be simple and I'll use my GS knowledge to attempt PSIR optional answers also. This is something where you should be very careful, because optional answer is different from a GS answer. I remember telling you this: approaches to study IR, realism, idealism, Marxism, functionalism, system theory. When we write a PSIR optional answer, we use theories in our answer. We use viewpoints of experts and scholars in our answer. Therefore, I would also recommend to you that you should regularly start reading the newspapers. And the articles and the editorials which are written by IR experts in the newspapers, you must read them very carefully. We will use those viewpoints in our answers, and in my lectures also I'll give you notes regarding that. So this is something which you have to understand. So the focus and requirement of the optional is completely different from GS, which we will obviously focus on the next 5.5 months and try and develop as much expertise as we can in order to do justice to the paper. Now, before I let you go, I would also like to tell you that as far as the optional paper is concerned, because you have not chosen PSIR as a optional paper, so the PSIR optional paper demands that your general awareness should be high. You must have good knowledge about the new developments which are happening in the country and also at the international level. So I would recommend to all of you that you should regularly start reading the newspaper. Even though we will cover all topics in the classroom, but if you are reading the newspapers, this will obviously put you into a better place in order to understand and benefit more from the lectures. So you start reading the newspapers itself. Also, I will have lectures with you from next Sunday onwards. This week, Sushant sir will take classes. From Sunday onwards, next Sunday onwards, I will take your lectures. So you have a 1 week period of time, and I will recommend to you that why don't you read the NCERT in this 1 week? I'm not saying that we are going to get any question from NCERT in the optional paper. But if you read the NCERT on international relations in this week, this will set a very good foundation for you to develop on and to understand IR issues in the class. How many of you are from a non-humanities background? How many of you are from non-humanities background? So quite a few of you. So it's not that students from non-humanities background is going to have any disadvantage, not at all. In fact, majority of the students who are getting selected from PSIR optional paper is from the non-humanities background, but a little more hard work has to be put into, and that hard work is that because you are out of touch with international politics. You may have studied about it in your school, when you must have studied about UN in your NCERTs. But now you're a little out of touch. So therefore, I would suggest to you that before in the next 1 week itself, try and read NCERTs. Even for paper 1, there's 2 NCERTs which are recommended. There's an NCERT on political theory. Have you seen the NCERT on political theory? There's a chess box on the front page. Very simple book. You can read it in 3-4 hours. Read it. That will give you a good foundation to develop a good understanding of political theory. There will be a chapter on secularism. There's a chapter on equality, chapter on liberty, chapter on freedom. So good NCERT. Then also there's an NCERT called Constitution at Work, which is about Indian Constitution. Again, a very small NCERT, very pleasurable read, will not take more than 2-3 hours. So that also you can read. And for IR, there's an NCERT. You must have seen contemporary politics, on international politics. There is a NCERT. Again, it's a very pleasurable read, just a thin book, and it will give you a basic understanding of what has happened in the international world in the previous century. So try and read this NCERT in the next 6-7 days. That will prepare a very good foundation for your PSIR classes. Okay, so this is what something which I wanted to share with you. So from my side, all the best for your PSIR course. Do you have any doubts, any queries which you would like to ask? Online students, any queries, any doubts which you'd like to ask regarding the optional paper? Clear, all of you? Yes. Yes, he's asking any reference book. So I'm sure Sushant sir may have shared this detail with you. There is, as far as PSIR optional paper is concerned, there's a long reading list. There are so many books which are helpful to prepare the PSIR optional paper, PSIR paper 1, also paper 2 as well. There is no one book which will help you prepare the syllabus. In fact, for each and every chapter in the syllabus, there are different books. But as far as our students are concerned, we do not recommend them to read any of these books. Why? Because we have read them on your behalf and we have made notes. So in each of our classes, you will get typed notes, and these notes have been prepared from these books only, a wide reading of book list. Notes have been prepared from these books and also from current affairs. So these notes are already ready, which will be shared with you in every class. When you walk into the classroom, the topic which will be discussed in the class, the notes in the form of handout will be given to you in all our PSIR classes. So those notes which we share with you will be more than sufficient for you to attempt the paper. That's one-stop solution. Nothing else is required. And our focus here in PSIR classes is that in order to score good marks in PSIR, you must have conceptual clarity, good understanding of the concepts, good understanding of the subject. So our classes is going to be more of interactive classes where we will spend majority of the time discussing, explaining, and then whatever time is left in that, we will, in each and every class, we will discuss previous year questions, the topic which we have covered. For example, if we cover a topic, say we have today done national interest. So whatever previous year questions have been asked on national interest, all those questions will be discussed in the class. You will also be given model answers, and also the notes will be given to you in the class itself. So the classroom and the notes and PYQ discussion in the class would be one-stop solution for all of you, and you need not worry about that. But yes, one thing I would recommend, that you should read the newspaper. That will increase your general awareness. That will help you in IR issues also, in Indian polity, Indian government and politics as well. So you should read the newspaper. Nothing extra is required. Everything else will be taken care of in the class itself, where the focus would be entirely on explanation and understanding of the topic rather than anything else. And you will be given typed notes in the class, handouts, and then we will also discuss previous year questions and model answers in the class itself. So that is the pedagogy, that is the methodology which we follow in our PSIR papers. Yes, Rajat Kumar is asking, we should read Hindu or Indian Express. So what I would suggest to you is that you read only one newspaper, either Hindu or Indian Express, but read articles of both. You get my point what I'm saying? Read only one newspaper, whichever you like, either Hindu or either Indian Express, but read articles of both newspapers. You know what I'm talking about, which articles? The editorial page, the op-ed page, the articles. They are very good articles on IR and polity which are published in both these newspapers. They won't be there every day, but if they are there, you read articles of both, but read only one newspaper. There's no need to read both the newspapers. No, not at all. Read only one, but read articles of both as PSIR students. Anything else you'd like to ask? Any other doubts? So thank you so much, students. I look forward to teaching you, and I'll see you next Sunday. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Thank you.